Well, hello, this is Mike from Music City, and welcome to the latest installment of Ranking Records. This is one I've been sitting on for a while, and it's about time to get it done. We're going to look at the best records or my favorite records from 1974. And man, I tell you, it was a great year in music. And one of the things I'm going to do at this one is I'm not going to be a history revisionist, and uh, you'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit because there was a few records here that I really didn't listen to in 1974, and I'm going to be, I learned to love them a little bit later. I'm going to include them in the list, but I'm going to kind of give you an idea of what I listened to in 74 and what I didn't listen to, and you'll get what I'm saying in a little bit. But as I've mentioned before, when I do one of these, the place I always start is the Village Voice Paz and Drop poll. And if you just Google, they pop up. And Robert Christgau was the organizer of this, and he polled rock critics, and they come up with their list of the greatest records. That's a good place to start. And then I mentioned, too, I go to Wikipedia, and I kind of look at everything released that year. And we kind of work from there. Now, what's interesting here, too, is 74. Man, I hate to admit it, but I bought 8-track tapes back then, and a lot of I would say 90% of what we're going to look at today, I had subsequently bought on vinyl. And there's a couple of things I did go buy because I wanted it included in these sets. So, but interestingly enough, I do have a top 10, but first I want to look at 5 records that didn't make it, but I want to talk about them because I liked them. And the first I'm going to start off with is something I went and bought, and that's Joni Mitchell's Court and Spark, which was the #1 record on the Paz and Drop poll. And I liked the record. I liked Joni, but I just never was a huge Joni Mitchell fan. I didn't listen to this record back then. I don't know what. I just don't totally click with Joni in a way like I know a lot of others do. I think I did like her more in her later years when she got a little more jazzy, and some of that jazzy stuff started on here. But, I wanted to mention, too, I like the record. It's not going to make my top 10, though, and although it was the #1 on the Paz and Drop. Now, secondly, and I have done a lot of ranking records on artists, and when I cover some of the ones today, I'm going to mention that there was a ranking records. Now, here's a ranking records on this band, and this didn't make my top 10, but I love the record, 10cc's Sheet Music. I don't know, it just didn't knock my socks off like the first record did. It does have the great song on there, Wall Street Shuffle, and it's got a few other great songs. Worthy of mentioning, but didn't make my top 10, and I know a lot of 10cc fans disagreed with me when I did my ranking. They think this is the band's crowning achievement. I go back to the first record. The third bubbling under in the 5 below the top 10, an artist I loved back in the day. I didn't like where her career ultimately wound up, but Linda Ronstadt's Heart Like a Wheel. I mean, this is back in the day when she was just, I was a country rock guy back then, and she was just the #1 female vocalist in the country rock movement. And this is a good record. I love the songs on it. She did a lot of crazy different things. She got in a new wave and singing with big bands and stuff. But I wish she, when she stuck to this stuff, she was great. And she just really, really had a knack for finding great songs. And, on this record, you got J.D. Souther's Faithless Love. She does Dan Penn's Dark End of the Street, Anna McGarrigle's Heart Like a Wheel, Lola George's Willin'. And she was just a great interpreter. I'm really glad I got to see her a few times live back in 1974. Great singer, and, just didn't make my top 10, though. Now, the next one, I really want to mention this record for a couple of reasons, and that's, I guess this was the final Raspberries album, Starting Over. And I was really floored by the cut Overnight Sensation, which is sort of, well, no, it's sort of, it's Eric Carmen, the leader of the Raspberries, just sort of a song that really summed up some of his frustrations with the music business and, what it all meant to him. I think it's just a classic song and a good record, got some, classic songs in the classic Raspberry power pop style, cruising music all through the night. A good record. Just didn't make doesn't make my top 10, but I really wanted to mention it. And if you haven't heard the song Overnight Sensation, go ahead and check it out on Spotify. And Number 5, again, I didn't really listen to this record a lot when it came out. I knew the singles, um, and that's John Lennon's Walls and Bridges. And of course, it's got Whatever Gets You Through the Night with Elton John. And I got to see him sing that live at Madison Square Garden in 1974. Read about it on my blog, musiccitymike.net, one of my most favorite moments in my life. We know Number 9 Dream got a lot of airplay, but I don't know, it just wasn't wild about the record. Good solid record from Lennon, though, just didn't make my top 10. Okay, let's get to the top 10. Now, number 10, some of you are going to say, where are we going with this? How does he pick that album? But man, I really liked this record back in the day. And that's Leo Sayers' Just a Boy. I just really liked the song Long Tall Glasses, a great pop song. And, he was working with a guy named David Courtney, who wrote several of the songs on this record and previous records. I think, yeah. And I just think Courtney was a great songwriter. I think Sayer was a great interpreter of his music. I saw him live at the Bottom Line. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't like where his career went. He got a little too, syrupy and sweet in some songs, and they were just kind of weren't great. But no, this is my number 10 record. I did play this a lot back in the day, and it still sounds good to me back then. Number 9, another one you're probably going to say, what is he listening to? But man, I love Peter Frampton's Something Happening record, was just great. And the title song to that, Baby Something Happening, was just a great song, forever. And I think even to this day, well, he's not touring anymore, but the last time I saw him, it was his opening song in his show. And I think it's just a great song. Doobie Wah's another great one. I Wanted to Go to the Sun. Hey, man, we all know what happened to Frampton, but I mean, the 4 solo albums that he put out before the live record, I think they're just all really good records. So that's my number 9. Number 8. David Bowie's Diamond Dogs. And this was the first time I got to see Bowie. Man, I regret missing some of those early shows, but I saw this tour. I loved it. I think this is a fine Bowie record. It's got, Rebel Rebel and Diamond Dogs on it. Maybe not Bowie's greatest album, but I think it was one of the best records of 1974. So that's coming in at number 8. Now, number 7, again, you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but the Eagles, On the Border. Man, I'm been on record, and I'll go tell you, I mean, yeah, I don't like what became of the Eagles. They annoy me to death these days, but I'll tell you something, those first 3 Eagles albums were great. Being a country rock guy, this was a fantastic record. I'm looking at the tracks. Already Gone, My Man, Bernie Leadon's tribute to Graham Parson, James Dean. They owned Tom Waits' Old 55 on here, I thought. A good record. And you know what? I saw the band live at the Academy, I guess it was called the Palladium or the Academy of Music. I don't remember what they called it back then. Probably it was the Academy in 74. And, I just loved that original lineup. Henley and Fry with Ledden and Meisner. Who am I missing? And I guess Don Felder plays on it, but it was Fry, Henley, Ledden, and Meisner. The original band. They were good, and the first 3 records are great. So that comes in at number 7. Number 6. It's hard to put a Dylan album, not way up the top, but Planet Waves, which he did with the band, it was his one record he did on Asylum Records. I guess in addition they put I'm not sure if the live album was on Asylum. I'm not sure if it was or not. Can't remember now, but it was just kind of a mixed record. It was great to hear him with the band again, but some high spots on there. Of course, one of Dylan's greatest songs he's ever done is Forever Young, and you may have forgotten there's 2 versions of it on here. I also like You Angel You and Hazel, On a Night Like This. But I don't know. Just as far as the Dylan album goes, maybe just a little bit spotty. But that's my number 6 of the year. Now, my number 5, man, this was a record I played to death in 74. And I'm not a huge Neil Young fan. I love Neil. I just never just kind of went totally gonzo over him. And I did see him live a few times. And to this day, I enjoy Neil. But On the Beach, my favorite Neil Young record will always be, and just starting with that opening track, Walk On, and the grungy guitar. Oh man, I loved it. It's got the Ambulance Blues on here. Who can forget it? Forget that marathon track. And just a good solid record, and one of my favorites in '74. Now, my number 4 record. This is where I'm going to kind of get into what I was telling you about this revisionist history and all this stuff. The number 4 record, if you asked me in 1974 what was my number 1 record, this would have been it. The 3 that I'm going to put before that, I didn't discover in 1974, and we'll talk about that more. But my number 4 record, or what it would have been my number 1 record if you asked me in 1974, Jackson Browne's Late for the Sky. I mean, Jackson was my man back in 1974. I really hadn't fallen head over heels with Bruce Springsteen's music yet. Jackson was my man, and to me, this is a fantastic, fantastic record. The title track, Late for the Sky, For a Dancer, Before the Deluge. Jackson was just writing some really great songs, and he had a great band. It was, it was country rock with a real edge to it. Fountain of Sorrow is on here too, which I got to see him do that before the record came out. I saw a show in Boston. And let me just say that I really got to say this. If you know that song, Fountains of Sorrow, don't you agree there's a point where he should have ended the song? It's like the song's over and then he starts over again, keep going on. I was just, I had to get that out of the way. But my favorite record in 1974 back then was Jackson Browne, but I'm going to now rank it as my 4th favorite record from '74. So here's 3 records that I didn't discover in that year, which I think are the 3 best records of that year. Part of it is you'll see that, these records just didn't get airplay, and 2 of them I probably couldn't have found in a record store if I tried to find them. You'll see what I mean. But number 3 now number 3 had a hit single on it, so that's a little different. But I knew the single, and I didn't discover the band in full until maybe a year or 2 later. I just thought they were a singles band. I didn't realize what a great album band they were. But my number 3 is Pretzel Logic by Steely Dan. Of course, the hit is Ricky Don't Lose That Number, but oh my gosh, any major dude will tell you. Barrytown, the title track, Pretzel Logic, a great, great Steely Dan record. I love Steely Dan. I also love this album cover. If you've ever been in Central Park, I've never eaten the chestnuts, but I've eaten the hot pretzels. Is he selling chestnuts? He is selling chestnuts too. They smelled good though. But just a great Steely Dan record. And like I said, it took me a little while to get into their albums and past the fact that they had hit singles as well too. Now, number 1 and 2, these were the records that I said they never got any airplay. I mean, I listened to WNEW-FM in New York constantly, nonstop. They never played either one of these artists. I had read about these artists in magazines, but you didn't see their records on the shelves in a record store, so it kind of took a while for me to track these down. But number 2, and one of my favorite albums of all time is Big Star's Radio City. I mean, power pop at its best. It's got September Girls on it, Maud Lang, Oh My Soul. I just love this record. I'd almost like to say that the first, if on CD I've got the first 2 Big Star albums, this and the first Big Star album on the same. It's almost like they're one record to me. That's how I grew up listening to them. But this record is just tremendous, and if you don't have it, get it. And I love the album cover, the art. I don't want to butcher his name, but Bill Eggleston was the famous photographer who made this photo. I've seen some of his photo exhibits. It's great stuff. But sadly, Alex is gone, and Andy is gone, and Jody Stevens just keeps the flame of Big Star. Is the only one still around with us today. But Big Star, Radio City, number 2. Now, number 1, if you know me, you know what it's going to be. I recently did a ranking of my favorite records of all time, and I put this in as my 2nd favorite record of all time, and I think it still sits there. But that's Grievous Angel by Graham Parsons, posthumously released after his death. This record really, to me, it's just fantastic. It sets the mold for country rock. He's got a tremendous band playing with him on the record. We got a lot of James Burton on guitar, and Linda Ronstadt, Bernie Ledner on there, of course. Emmylou Harris sings with them. Brass Buttons may be one of the greatest songs ever written. I love the title, sort of the title track, The Return of the Grievous Angel, which, strangely enough, I don't know if you know the story, but a fan actually wrote the lyrics and sent them to Graham. You know, you got so much great stuff on here. Wow. Just my, yeah, I just love this record, and I hope that you got to know it well too. And again, I kind of failed to mention, but on a lot of these artists, a lot of these artists that we covered here today, I have done, complete ranking records on. There's one on Graham Parsons, there's one on Big Star, there's one on Steely Dan, and I think those are the only ones so far that I failed to mention. But again, hey, this was fun. I think we're going to go to 1985 next, go up the ladder and come instead of coming down the ladder. There's still just so much great music out there from the 70s and 80s I look forward to discussing with you. But hey, we got this one done. It's been sitting there for a long time. I thank you for listening and watching. Please hit the like button. Please share it with your friends on your socials. And please subscribe if you haven't. We're up to 606. I told you my goal is to hit 1,000 in 2021. Hey, and of course, please remember, these are the records I liked, not necessarily from a critical perspective, totally of what was the best. And I'm not covering, jazz and other genres that I'm not really very well versed at. But I'd love to hear what you think about my picks and what your picks were for 1974. But with that, thank you so much for watching. This is Mike from Music City signing off.